the collapse of appearance. Reality cannot be spoken without being broken. The moment a word is used, the infinite collapses into form. Every question already assumes too much. It assumes a thing, a source, a beginning, a place where something came from. That assumption is the first mistake, because the act of asking already collapses what you're trying to point to. This is why it behaves like a dream. Inside the dream, nothing needs a history. Everything is already there, already prepared, already coherent. You don't stop in the middle of a dream and demand an origin story. You accept it. Though where did it come from? Only shows up after waking, when memory starts narrating and stitching. Memory is the cut. Memory turns flow into objects. Memory freezes what was never separate and calls it a thing. Without memory, there is no many. Without memory, there is no before and after. There is only appearance, only what is given. Imagination is not fantasy. Imagination is image in action. It is the interface that allows the infinite to be experienced at all. The image is the first mark, the first distinction, the first one. And this is where the numbers come in, not as math class, not as schoolwork, but as symbols for how the collapse works. 0 is not a thing. 0 is the unmarked. Non-consideration. The silent ground. You can't see it directly because it has no edge. 1 is the first mark, the consideration of non-consideration. The first image. The first distinction. 2 is the relation, the place where comparison becomes possible, the point where from here even exists. That's why a trinity shows up immediately, the unmarked, the mark, and the relation between them. Not as religion, not as a doctrine, just as structure. But then it gets stranger, because the operations themselves reveal the upside-down nature of it. Subtraction is not a separate power. Subtraction is addition wearing a mask. When you say 1 minus 2, what you're really doing is 1 plus negative 2. That's not a trick, it's the system confessing that minus is not its own reality. It's an orientation, a reversal, a sign. Which means the language is already telling you the world you think is straight is built on hidden flips. And the same confession happens with division. Division is not its own power either. Division is multiplication by an inverse. 1 divided by 2 is 1 times 1/2. So you have two families, add/subtract and multiply/divide. And even there, one side feels primary and the other feels derivative, not because you're dumb, but because the structure is asymmetric. It's one way in the sense that the undoing operations only exist as redescriptions of the doing operations. That's why it feels backwards, inside out, and paradoxical. You keep seeing pairs that look like opposites but aren't truly independent. You see a duality that isn't two equal sides. You see direction. You see dependence. So when you say the positive and the negative are the same in essence, but not reversible, you're not doing beginner math. You're saying something deeper. The visible depends on the invisible, but the invisible does not depend on the visible. The mark depends on the unmarked, but the unmarked does not depend on the mark. The appearance depends on what cannot be seen, but what cannot be seen does not require appearance to be what it is. That's why you kept coming back to the one-way paradox. The left exists only as a reference held by the right, but the right doesn't need the left. The many exists only as a way of seeing the one, but the one doesn't become many. The many is not added, it's only the one repeating through the cut of perception. You don't count 9 billion separate beings. You count the one 9 billion times. So the positive is not a substance. It is the way absence becomes visible. The negative is not an opposite object. It is the unmarked ground. And the reason you can't explain it cleanly is because explanation is the collapse. Words are the collapse. Thought is the collapse. Every time you try to define it, you carve it into something smaller than itself. This is why the deepest questions do not resolve. Not because nobody was smart enough. Because resolution would be a distortion. The answer is beyond words because words are the cut. When you're inside the dream, you can't step outside the dream to analyze it. This reality is like that. Consciousness cannot climb outside itself to describe the ground without immediately turning the ground into another object inside the scene. So nothing and everything become the same in essence. Nothing is the infinite before collapse. Everything is the infinite after collapse. Everything depends on nothing. Nothing does not depend on everything. The direction matters. The one-way matters. The asymmetry matters. And this repetition, this circling, this exhausting of language until only the stable structure remains, this is the work. Not superstition. Not performance. Not theatrics. Not blood. Not chanting. The practice is thinking it again and again until the symbols stop being decorations and become tools. Until the question collapses under its own assumptions. Until you can feel exactly where language fails and appearance continues. Nothing was ever missing. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing was ever created. The infinite did not become finite. The infinite only appeared as finite through the cut. Amen. Let it be so.